Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A question has come my way from someone who works in food delivery, and he is asking, sometimes he has to deliver food in which he discovers that there is pork in it. So does this make his job haram or does it remain halal? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist me in answering this question. It is an important question, and I think we can branch off in other areas as well of those who are in this same predicament. So for a Muslim, and of course I'm talking from an Islamic viewpoint here, we all know that there are certain foods which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden, such as pork, obviously wine and alcohol, and various other things that may occur that are forbidden in a person's workplace. So I can only quote what the scholars have said and their viewpoint and summarize them to you. After long research, we found that, first of all, the person has to look at the type of job that they are doing, whether it is halal or haram. If a job cannot be completely halal, then they have to resort to a job which may involve some haram. Then we have to also look at a person's necessity situation. How much in need are they of a job which has haram in it? And for some people, they may need a job which is completely haram, but they're in such a dire need that they have no other options. So I'll try to answer all these points. First of all, for the person who's delivering food and sometimes has to deliver pork, then the answer to that is this. The job that you're doing, if it's generally halal, so basically delivering food, that is a halal job. Then the scholars said we look at the exceptions and see what we can do about it. So if at times you have to deliver pork, then the first question that we need to ask is, can you avoid it? If you can avoid it without any repercussions, without any harm to your job or to your livelihood or to your reputation and so on, then you should and must avoid delivering pork or even wine or anything like that. But if you find that you're going to be harmed from it and this is your livelihood, then you can deliver it if you didn't know that that is what it is and there is no harm or sin upon you. If you did know that it was pork and that you were going to deliver pork and you couldn't avoid it, or it was going to harm your livelihood, then again the scholars have already told us that this falls under the case of necessities dictate exceptions. This is a common rule in Islam, ad-darurat tubihul mahdhurat, necessities allow for exceptions. And then when you give your zakat, the yearly zakat that you give for your accumulated excess wealth, then that also purifies any wealth that was mixed with, any haram wealth that was mixed with halal wealth. That's if you have to pay your zakat, and that is the purpose of zakat. I'm talking to both men and women in this case with no differences. But if the job that you're working at, the delivery, is primarily haram food, let's say a person is working to deliver primarily pork products, and then the other way is true. Every now and then, with the exception some halal food is delivered, then obviously that work is haram because it's primarily based on haram deliveries. The only exception to a job like that is the case of necessity. If you are in dire need and you're unable to find another job that is primarily halal, then obviously in Islam, again, necessities allow for exceptions, but what you have to do is actively trying to find another job that is more halal for you. And that is what our Islam is. It is flexible, it is wide, and it takes into consideration people's different circumstances. In relation to some people who do other things other than food delivery, you might be working at a factory or at a industry or job. In whatever you're working at, you could be places where you're working with stacking food or shelving or in the warehouse or selling or at the cash register or the whatever it is. You could be a cleaner, and you happen to have to sort of pack haram products on the shelves, let's say, or maybe while cleaning, if you're a cleaner, you have to clean certain areas of a supermarket where they sell alcohol, or you may have to scan some items with customers that could be haram. Then again we look at the same principle. Is the primary job halal? Then yes. So let's say, for example, 80% to 90% of the job is halal, which is food and people's food and drink and buying and the other needs of their livelihood. Then we say this job is halal. And again, if you cannot avoid it, or if it will harm you in some way and you cannot find a completely halal job otherwise, then that is okay for you as well, and you are exempt inshallah, and your zakat which you pay yearly purifies that wealth as well. Now I'm not going to go into too many other areas because we'll end up talking a lot, and we'll get into a bit of controversies and some of the answers which I may not be able to answer very clearly in certain specific areas of work and employment or business. That's another story, but I hope that you did understand the general rule. I repeat it once again. The general rule is, if you are in need of a job and there's no alternative and that job is completely haram, then it depends on the necessity situation. If you have to work it for your livelihood and there's no other way, then you work there temporarily until you find a more halal job. If your job is primarily halal and there are some haram that may come your way, if you can avoid it, then you must avoid it. If you can't avoid it, or it will harm you if you do avoid it, then inshallah you are exempt and your zakat will purify. I hope inshallah that answers your question. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.